Is the current public school system like slavery, or is it like socialism? Let's take a look at it, and we will take a look at many elements, and we'll try to answer some of that questions and in the discussion around that. Socialism and slavery are very similar, not the exact, but the main bad parts of slavery is part of socialism. That bad part is the loss of control by the individual. You don't get to decide. Now, socialism, all-encompassing, is all the areas of government, all the areas of your life, all the areas. So that's the same with slavery. Now, if you just talk about education, now we can narrow the scope. And are we socialist within education? Now, in the slavery, they did not allow the slaves to learn, to get educated. Maybe they did on some occasions so they can be better workers out in the field. If they want to be able to identify plants when to pull whatever crops. They had to be educated to some degree. So they did educate some, but they wanted to keep them ignorant so they wouldn't be able to escape and the like. So socialism and slavery are very similar in that aspect. So is the public school system like that? It's complicated. So let's keep on going. The current public school is socialist. There's no doubt about that. It is government. Government taxes a tremendous amount, 5-6% of the income, total income, about $15,000 per household. $15,000 per household times about a little bit over 100, about 200,000 taxpayers. Well, every 110,000 households, about 200 million households. It's about $15,000 per household. So $2 trillion, that equates to $2 trillion nationwide, city, state, and federal. So it's a tremendous amount of money coming out of each household. It could be in a lot of different taxes: business taxes, individual taxes, real estate taxes, income taxes, and the like. There's a lot there, sales taxes included. But where it's not socialist is they give you the opt-out. Most socialism systems do not give you that opt-out. And if they do give that opt-out, there's a big punishment. You still pay the tax, you still pay the education tax, but you still don't get the benefit. So they'll freely say, oh, if you don't want the benefit, fine, go do it on your own, but we're still taking the money. So that's huge. But the way socialism is, they take a tremendous amount, they do the administration, they give them all that money, then they control how that education is done. So let's keep on going. The opt-out is very costly. The punishment for going $200,000 to $300,000 per child for the 13 years they're in school. That's how big that opt-out is. If you want to include college, probably a little bit more than that. But it is a very, very big punishment by foregoing that amount of money. So it is somewhere around the $20,000 mark per year per child times 13 years. So that gives you between $200,000 and $300,000. Now every school district is different. Some are $30,000 and $40,000 per year per child, and some of the most expensive, and some are $11,000 or $12,000 for some of the poorer states. And then the funding for education directly, and then they fund education directly, which means government employees, while they still are paying that massive education tax. So you can control your child's education, but not if you receive the benefit. Anyway, let's keep on going. Many slaves were legally barred from receiving an education. We kind of talked about that. Again, you had to be educated a little bit to do the jobs they wanted more productively and the like. Many inner city descendants of slaves are woefully undereducated by the public school system. Many public school systems have 0% of their people in the inner city, mostly descendants of slaves, where they're not at grade level. And they're spending $20,000, $30,000 per child per year. So it is very much similar by not receiving that education, and they put them through that system. And many of these, let's keep on going because I'm kind of going to get ahead of myself. Many inner city descendants of slaves are overwhelmingly happy when they have the option to escape the public school system with a voucher. They celebrate, they have parties, they're finally able to, because they're paying so much in taxes that's hampering their earning potential and how much money coming back to them because the education tax has to be done. Even if it's done by their employer through business taxes, real estate taxes, and the like. They say they might not be paying any real estate taxes for their house because they rent. No, they're still paying it because that's built into the rent. So many inner city descendants of slaves are overwhelmed when that burden is taken away from them. They can get a voucher to go to a private school and have a little bit more control over how their children are educated. And then their children can actually receive an education. And we know the voucher, the students that receive a voucher and they go to the private schools have a much far better success rate in education academically than they did in the public school system. Slavery was sustained by a system of laws that perpetrated the lack of education. Hundreds of laws and policies we currently have sustain a system that fails the majority of Black Americans, mostly in the inner city. Many Black people in the suburbs, not in the inner city, they can do just fine. There's no problems with Black people learning if they're in a good system. In the inner city, the policies and the system are intentionally there to make them fail. Now, maybe intentionally is not the right word, but the policies are still there that makes them fail. So, competitive school boards is a solution to this oppression. It allows parents to decide what school system they want to go to, and if one's not doing well, they can switch to another. It allows many options that Black people can choose from. So, Black people, the descendants of slaves, how awful that was, we need to allow them to thrive. Individuals and parental rights are restored, and that's how the Black population will thrive, especially in the inner city. We have a lot of issues with that. We'll talk about that in another video even further, but right now, until the next video.